Hello, are we ready for part 2 of Byline Times' newest drop into Megxit? Trust me, you are. So as with a lot of Byline Times series, they start with the good stuff, they start with the overarching story, and then they take these little side routes into other stories that shed more light on their main thesis. This article is no exception. Now I'm going to present you the 2 other little vignettes that fall under this umbrella story that I wasn't able to get to yesterday. First one involves the relationship between Dan Wootton, Christian Jones, and his publicist partner. The assumption is that there are legal reasons why they are not naming Christian Jones's partner. This article is titled "In Plain Sight: The Picture the Palace Probe Missed." See, a curious thing happened. Simon Case, who was private secretary for Prince William, notably during the Sandringham summit, was tasked into investigating if there was a relationship between Dan Wootton, Christian Jones, and his publicist partner. This was an internal investigation which concluded that there was no foul play here and that Christian Jones and Dan Wootton weren't even friends, except there's a photo that proves to the contrary. Before anyone's like, well, Meredith, they're in a group. This could have been anything. Yeah, it was Dan Wootton's 35th birthday party in which he said, "Celebrating with my incredible friends," from March 11th, 2018. It was a very exclusive party that Dan Wootton paid for and hosted for 20 of his closest friends. I'm assuming because he doesn't actually have more than 20 friends. Honestly, the palace should just hire Gen Z or millennial women to get to the bottom of anything. Trying to figure out if someone got divorced that you knew 20 years ago? The girls will find it. Want to snoop on the guy that you kissed at summer camp at the age of 12? The girlies will find that. I don't think Simon Case is totally inept. I think he didn't want to find these things. But just to be clear, considering how the COVID inquiry is going for Simon Case, he's inept. This piece also reminds you of the timeline. Jones took the job as Deputy Communications Secretary to the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge in December 2018. In the following summer of 2019, whistleblowers have revealed that Dan was paying the publicist for information. 2 things are important to know with this situation. The first is that when these payments were uncovered in 2020, Byline Times brought this information to Dan Wootton's lawyers, in which they denied unlawful payments for information, but did not deny the payments themselves. Very important distinction. The other is that the partner of Christian Jones, the publicist, does not deny receiving payments from the Sun. His argument is that it's just a fluke and that it wasn't about Meghan, it was about a reality TV star of the same name. So there's no denial that these payments happened. There is denial over who they were about and if it was legal. Let's just go back a little bit and talk about the payments and why the Sun would be so concerned about another scandal popping up. 2016, Operation Elvedine closed. This was an investigation into allegations of inappropriate payments to police and public officials, which Levinson Inquiry 2 would have covered, except the government decided it's okay, this is not a problem anymore, we're fine. It started in 2012 and included multiple arrests and convictions, including police officers. The idea that this might have been ongoing or that Dan Wootton might have found a loophole by getting a royal aides partner to provide the information, not a great look. Also interesting of note is that in June 2020, the Sussex's lawyers were alerted to this and the whistleblower claims, which originally were filtered through Nick Davies, who is now a retired Guardian journalist. He was the one that broke the story on the phone hacking scandal over at News of the World. There's also talk in this article about how Dan pulled the publicist and Christian Jones into his orbit. Because another thing we cannot forget is that until 2018-ish, Dan Wootton was not doing the royal beat. He was a showbiz and celebrity editor, which is why a showbiz celebrity publicist would want to rub shoulders with someone like Dan. Byline Times has sources that essentially say, yeah, it wasn't a secret that they were friends with Dan, but eventually the relationship soured and the partner didn't feel like it was good to be seen around Dan Wootton because he's nuclear. Who knows what potential information Dan could have gotten on the 2 of them. You've seen how he works. There's a pattern. There's nothing nefarious going on. Why did Christian Jones lie to Simon Case about his friendship? Why did Simon Case go a step further to not really investigating this at all, not doing his due diligence? Are inquiries just for show, just to fuel speculation or hide it, such as that Meghan bullying inquiry that was suspiciously, conveniently dropped right before their Oprah interview? Just saying. Christian Jones didn't stay long with the royal family. He leaves in 2022 to become a partner and the head of corporate affairs for Bridgepoint, which is a £31 billion private asset investment fund in the city. There might be no there, but I feel like that's worth looking into as well. The next article goes into the actual emails behind the Cash for Leaks affair. I touched on some of this information earlier when I talked about the 3 whistleblowers that brought this information to Nick Davies to get it in front of other eyes to see if there is anything illegal going on with the accounting for payments, specifically by Dan Wootton to this publicist. One of the reasons the whistleblowers give for trying to escalate this is that they didn't want this to be covered up by News UK. As we have seen from Byline Times' investigation into Dan Wootton, the Sun was more than willing in the past to cover for Dan Wootton, to pay off employees that brought forth complaints about Dan in the workplace at the 11th hour to avoid information coming out in public. Similar to how the royal family and probably the Sun wanted to avoid Christian Jones being named in Harry and Meghan's lawsuit. Byline Times replicates some of these emails. Quote, somebody in editorial started questioning why stories that weren't on the front page were getting thousands of pounds in fees. My friend says someone saw a string of payments within weeks to the publicist, Jones's partner, about royals and then asked who this person was. They couldn't understand why a showbiz PR would have that kind of knowledge, end quote. This brings me back to Prince Harry's court case against the publisher of The Sun. Recall 2 months ago, the media made a big deal over the fact that Prince Harry has failed. The judge has thrown out his claim against Murdoch and his company. And in fact, what happened is it was determined one piece could not move forward, but that the trial itself could move forward on the claim of illegal information gathering, which I'm pretty sure includes all of this stuff with Christian Jones, Dan Wootton, and Jones's partner. It was decided that the claims of phone hacking and the use of private investigators couldn't move forward to trial. Which, how you can move forward on the claim of illegal information gathering and not some of the ways in which information is illegally gathered, I don't know. I believe this case is supposed to start in January 2024. There is a final article underneath this umbrella about monetizing Harry and Meghan for hate online and algorithms. It sounds incredibly interesting, but also an article and a video for another time. Stay tuned for more.